Hi guys, so I thought today I'd show you how I start a cross stitch project. So this is going to be a stocking for my dad, don't tell him, for when they come to visit. So I'm just going to show you kind of how I start a project and just how to get things organized so that you don't get overwhelmed by stuff. If you're not organized, it can be really frustrating trying to figure out what you've already done, what you haven't done. And as it's counted cross stitch, you cannot tell just by the Aida cloth. It's not like needlepoint where it's painted on. You have to do the counting, which isn't great, I'll give you that. So you really are dependent on the chart that they give you. Oh wow, it's even got color. That's exciting. Okay, so, but I'm getting ahead of ourselves. First off, we need, where is the chart? Ah, here we are. Wow. Ooh, that is pretty. My goodness. Yep, that is overwhelming, isn't it? Okay, first thing I do before anything else is make a photocopy of this, because I like to keep the original pattern and everything just in case I should choose to recreate this. That is yet to happen. I've never actually done that, probably because I don't like doing the same thing twice, but giving myself the option, someday I may want to do it again. So anyway, I'm gonna go photocopy this. Be right back. Alrighty, I am back. Photocopied these. Man, oh man, that is really, really small. If you know how to enlarge on the printer, you may want to do that if that's something necessary for you, or maybe scan it into the computer and do it that way. That's a level of technological advancement that I am not at, so just make do. Okay, so what I want to do now is look at where these two lines match up, where they are the exact same row. And that can take a little bit of time, but generally, like here, I see there a little grouping of 3, kind of like this. And then it's mirrored again here, and I'm pretty sure that's the same line. So what I'm going to do is fold back just beneath that grouping of 3 and follow that line really carefully all the way across, because you don't want to like miss a row. That's going to look pretty awkward. Kind of like back in the day when printers would just skip a line, or they just add a line of garbage. You guys remember that back in the day? Anyway, you don't want that happening. Okay, so I folded under, and now I'm just going to put it over top so that my lines meet properly. Alrighty, so let's make sure this is lining up properly. 1, 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do to help me not mess this up is I'm going to mark. So this single blue lines up with this single blue. And over here we've got a double white space lining up with this double white space. So if we put these over top, we should be able to get everybody to line up properly, and it's looking like it. So that's pretty great. Okay, now we get the tape. Let me just double check. Measure twice, tape once. And for once, we're not using painter's tape. Now, you may notice that I am taping on the white, not on the chart. And that's because I want to be able to mark on the chart. And I will show you why when I get there. Okay, now we have this that needs to be dealt with. So we're going to do it from behind so that on the front side I can mark on the chart. There we go. All right, so this is our chart that we can do what we need to with. Alrighty, now you may notice when you get a kit that they have an arrow at the top and an arrow at the sides, and that marks halfway across the width and then halfway across the length. So what you need to do is find the very center stitch. Now, they say stitch, it's really going to be a collection of 4 stitches. So it's the very center, then there's 4 stitches around it. So really just pick one of those 4 to be your initial stitch. Now I am going to mark that with a color that's not involved in the chart, just so that I know what I'm aiming for and I can see it right away. You can see these lines here, those denote 10 stitches. So that makes things easier if you're trying to count along. So this is at one of these lines, which is really hard to see. And then this is also at another line. Alrighty, so right there is our center. And yeah, that's really hard to see. We'll call it this guy in the upper right corner. Alrighty, so what we're gonna do is, we know on the chart our very center stitch. Now we're gonna go to the fabric and find our very center stitch point. So we know to put that on the fabric. Okay, now this is interesting because normally you would see this line in the very center of the fabric. So that's a weird placement for this fold. I'm not sure if they're meaning for it to be the center of the top of the stocking. Yeah, that could be. All right, well, either way, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the very center. Okay, so some people would probably iron this. I'm not going to because, yes, I'm impatient. So I just need to have it really folded just at my middle point. Don't really care about anywhere else. All right, so this right here is my very center. Okay, normally I wouldn't put a pin in because normally I would go right into stitching, but we have to deal with the thread first. So just so this doesn't get, you know, lost and confused, I'm just gonna grab that stitch. That's gonna be my very first stitch, right there. All right, groovy. So that's good. I'll put you away, let you consider your fate. All right, now the threads. All right, so first thing we notice is these are really, really long, like crazy long. And the way that they have them marked, they've got the threads going through this kind of foam in between the cardboards. And they have the numbers. I'm guessing this is like, if it's DMC floss or something, this is the numbers of the floss, which is really nice for if you want to do the project again. But these are 3 feet long and you want half of that. Now, I do not recommend going around cutting everything in half right now. Let's see what they ask for. All right, so it says for the number of strands that you're doing, generally you want 2 strands. And then if you're doing half cross stitch, you want 3. If you want to do other stuff, French knots and that kind of stuff, we'll worry about it when we get there. Right now, all we need to know, 2 strands. So, easiest thing to do is when it's time to use that thread, we'll just pull out one of these threads, and there are 6 of them. You can just pull one out, cut it in half, and then take the ends to each other such that they're both going in the correct same direction. So you have something, you cut it here, and then you take this and you move it up to there so that they're both going in this direction. Yes, thread has a direction. If you put it in the wrong direction, it kind of pulls up and frays. Just kind of like your hair. You can tell when you're going in one direction or in the opposite direction. Thread's kind of the same way. Alrighty, so we know that we're going to need 1 thread cut in 2 for each stitching. So that's good. Now, the other thing you may have noticed, there are no symbols here. And this is all symbols. So now what I have to do, normally in just a black and white chart, there are fewer symbols. Generally, if you have color on a chart, it's because they have so many different symbols that they need to actually move on to adding some colors in. So there's a lot of symbols going here. So what I'm going to do, and this is a massive pain in the ass, I hear ya, is I'm going to mark each symbol for what thread it's supposed to be. It's probably going to take me like a good half hour to do, but it's going to save a lot of grief in the long run because I'll be able to just look at the symbol and go, oh yeah, that guy, and not have to think or anything like that. I prefer to get my thinking done at once and then I can go into robot mode. So I'm going to do that. Now, how do I know what symbol goes with each thread? That's a good question. Okay, so in this part here, this is the key. So it tells me, for example, burgundy is number 13073. There it is. Okay, and its symbol is a pink circle. All right, so let's get a pink. Mark it as a pink circle. Yay! All right, just got to do that another 50 times. Okay, I'll get back to you when I've finished this. Okie dokie. So I have gone through and put the symbols on all of the threads, and I found that there's a section where it's combined colors. So what I did is for example, this first combined colors symbol is a pink A, and it's one strand of peach and one strand of pale yellow. So what I did is underneath the peach, I did the A symbol with, in brackets, number 1 behind it, and then I did the same on the yellow, so that when I go to do an A, I'll be like, okay, yeah, those are the guys, and I need one strand of each. Hopefully I'll remember that. Now, looking at this, you may see how there's a smaller space at the bottom and a bigger space at the top, and there are some spots where it's really kind of busy. So if I was to do this again, I would put the regular symbols on the bottom and then the combined symbols on the top, because some of them, like for example this one, is involved with 3 different color combinations. So is this one. So it would be better if I had more space for that at the top. But I, just learned that now, so it is what it is. So there we go. Okay, so now I won't have to do as much thinking because I've got all my symbols arranged. Now, in the instructions here, they say bundle 1, bundle 2, bundle 3, bundle 4. Generally, when they do that, it's because the threads are coming in actual bundles and they haven't been put onto these organizational things. So I'm not sure why they have that, because if you're not accustomed to doing these, that's just going to add confusion. And so I'm not sure why they did that. But anyway, just ignore that. We've got that. That's all good. And we don't have to worry about details until we get there. It's fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have our... Oh, this is not the photocopy. That's why I'm not seeing the yellow on it. Okay. Where's our yellow? There we are. So if we look at our first stitch, it looks like a green quarter note. So green quarter note, there we go, this guy. Okay, so if you remember, we're just going to take that one strand and then cut it in half. So I'll show you how we do that. So one strand, and you can just kind of give it a pull and it'll come out from the foam. And then just kind of pull it like this. And then you want to straighten these guys out so that they don't make a big mess. All right, away you guys go. Okay, so now we have our thread, and we want to cut it in half because 36 inches is way too long to work with, and it'll end up fraying and breaking, and we'll end up using going through a lot of thread, and it doesn't look like they give you a whole lot of oops room on that, although they do give us the actual thread numbers, so if we needed to go to the store and get some more, we probably could. Okay, so I folded it in half and I clipped it, but now we've got thread going in opposite directions. For example, if this helps you visualize, we have a thread and we've cut it in half, but now our threads aren't going in the same direction. This one's going one way, this one's going the other way. We want them both to go in the same direction. So we have to flip one of them around. It doesn't matter who. So we have that, and now we have this. Okay, so now this is the tricksy part. Now you have to figure out which direction is the smoothest. We want it to be going in the smoothest way, otherwise it's going to be fraying. So if you have calluses, it's kind of hard to tell. Okay, it feels to me this is the right way. You can also actually just go on your lip. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes kind of going through here helps. Wherever you can figure out, sometimes going like this and just really barely holding, and the one that goes through is the smoothest. Okay, what I was going to show you is starting with a knot, but you know, I'm going to get too many angry looks from my family members if I perpetrate such a travesty. So, all right, starting. So they give us 2 needles. One is smaller than the other. Yep, not sure why. We'll get there when we get there. Okay. Now let's just make sure that we are going in the correct direction. Yes, we are. Okay, so let's go back to our work here. Oh, now this is the place where if you are interested in doing our embroidery hoop, this would be the time to do that. I'll show you how you do that. Okay, so I'll show you how you do a couple different kinds of hoops. This is your typical embroidery hoop. You'd use it for needlepoint or any kind of stitching, anything where you want the fabric to stay taut as opposed to uneducated. Aha! All right, so we put the inner part down, and then we put the outer part over top, which can be easier said than done. Come on, you can do it. I'm not a big fan of loops. Okay, I just need to open it up. It really is easier than I'm making it look like. Oh. Just keep going. Oh, there we are. All right. Okay, so you can see about all these circles here, and I've been fighting with this hoop who just does not want to spread wide enough for me to be able to close it properly. I think that Aida cloth is just too stiff for it. So we'll just put that away. Okay, other kind of frame that you can do. This is pretty much the quilting frame that I have, except smaller, and it's pretty easy to guess how it's gonna go. Anyway, so yeah, you just kind of clamp one on, clamp the other on, there you go. Done like dinner. Easy peasy. Now, that's how a lot of people do it. help. Go. Oh my God, why is this so hard? Okay, as I was saying, a lot of people use these frames. I don't, because I find them kind of ungainly. They're just, I don't know, hard to work around. Now for something like needlepoint where it has a very definite direction, or a pulled thread kind of embroidery, yeah, you do kind of want to go with a frame, otherwise things shift on you or they don't get the right tension. But cross stitch, it's equal pulling, so I prefer to just, as I go, just kind of do that and do my work and unroll things and that kind of stuff. So that's what I do. I'm just going to put these away now. Alrighty, so we have here our very center stitch, which we've marked with our little safety pin, and we have our thread. That is the correct color for this. Now, one of the rules about cross stitch is you don't use knots. As you're stitching and you're attaching threads, you want the tail to run underneath previous stitches. However, at the moment, we don't have previous stitches. So you can just hold it there with your finger, which, you know, may or may not work. Or you can fiddle about with doing sneaky things. One of them being you could maybe tape the tail on the underside. Don't know if that would work, but what I'm gonna do is just kind of go up and down here a little bit, and then I'm gonna pop up where I want my first cross stitch to be. Right here. Now, another important rule of cross stitch is you always have your bars going in the same direction. So I start with my first bar going bottom left to top right, and then my crossover bar going in the other direction. It doesn't matter which way you do it as long as you're consistent. And it may not seem like a big deal, but it is sort of important, because if you've got a whole piece finished, if you're kind of going all over the place, it actually makes it look muddier, because the way the light shines off the thread is different. When all the top bars are all going in the same direction, you get kind of a nice sheen. When it's all mixed all over the place, the light doesn't reflect the same way, and it just is something that tells your subconscious something's not quite right here. So you want to kind of commit, decide how you're going to do it, and just stick with it. And you know, I catch myself quite often doing the wrong bar, and then I have to either back it up, or when I'm doing my crossbar, instead of having it in the wrong direction, I put it underneath so that it'll end up in the correct direction, if that makes sense. Alrighty, so our first stitch, and again, this is not a normal thing. I'm just doing this so I can kind of hold on to the tail, and I've got a good ½ inch, maybe 1.5 centimeters here, so that when I'm doing more stitching, I will cross over that and lock that in, and then I can just trim this and pull that out. So this is just being sneaky. Okay, so our very first center stitch, I'm committing to the first bar going in this direction, and then our second bar going over top in the other direction. All right, there we go. Yay, our first stitch. Woohoo! Okay, so now I'm going to keep this with me, because the reason why I photocopy the pattern is so that as I go and I do a stitch, I can mark it off on here, so that, you know, after dinner I come back to this. I don't have to sit there and count and figure out where I was. I can see, oh, okay, there was a line of this here, there's a line of this here. I can see where I need to start. This is like the biggest tip and trick that I could give you for cross stitch. Photocopy your chart and mark your chart as you go. It's huge. Okay, so now looking at our chart, we've done this guy, and then we see, okay, there's two of the same on the next row down and shifted over. So it's kind of like the diagonal and the one beside that. Okay, so I'll take this, and we want to go again, this, and then this. So you don't have to do each stitch individually. You can do kind of like a row in one direction and then go back to where you started doing the top parts. So you start doing your first slants, and now you're going to turn them into crosses on the way back. There we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna cross these two off. It may seem time consuming to cross those off, but it's nothing compared to getting one stitch out of place and things not lining up, and you have to try and figure out where you went wrong, where you miscounted, and rip everything up. That's just a nightmare. So yeah, being organized is really key. Okay, so the next one we have, actually there are 4 stitches down from here, so we need to do another 3. Oops. So you might be able to see there, they didn't both come out evenly. So let's see if there's anything on the back that's strange. Nope, that's all good. So for some reason, something didn't pull evenly. So you do have to kind of keep an eye on what's going on, because it's easier to fix at the time than, you know, have to go digging. So this right now, I'm putting the needle against here, and I'm going to put my finger against this to kind of flatten out. You can see the difference between the flattened thread and the thread that just is dangling. So I want my stitches to be made with this flat thread. So we want 4 stitches down, including the one that I've already done. Now, normally when I'm working, I'm like shifting things around and all that kind of stuff, but just for ease of following what I'm doing, I'm keeping it still for you guys. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go up and finish these ones yet. Sometimes what I like to do is do an entire section just with the half stitch, so that I can see, okay, yes, I've got that, double check it, yep, that's right. And then I can go back and kind of go in reverse of what I was doing and finish those stitches. Okay, now I have, keeping even with this bottom guy, I've got 2 going up. So you can see here, you don't always have to go up and down. You can kind of bend the fabric and go right straight across. Pardon me. Okay, 1, 2. And now we've got 3 going down. was gonna go back at this point, but I see just a stitch away is another little row and a bit, which is kind of on its own. So we're going to do that as well. So we're skipping a row, and then we're going to go, there we go. We're going to go down 2, and we see here, this is my thing I'm going to get rid of. It's going in the same hole, so I'm just going to go on the far side of that. And then down. And now I'm going to go on the inside. Okay, so let's see here. So you can see that that tail has actually gotten pinned down quite a bit by the stitches that I'm doing. Some of them it's just going through, some of them it's going around, but when I do my final bars on complete those stitches, I'm going to make sure that I really lock that tail in. And because there's no knots, it still feels nice and smooth. Like you can feel that there's, you know, stitching there, but it's not like a big old knot. All right, so 2, and then this final one, actually, I'm going to complete because it's sort of down there all on its own. All right, and now these 3 across. 1, 2, 3. All right, so let's compare and make sure we have this correct. A second. All right. So this gap should be 3 like a backwards L, which it is. This gap should be 2 and then 3, which it is. And this gap here should be 2. And by gap, I mean empty spaces. So, yep, that's right, good. So now we can go back and turn all of these half stitches into whole stitches. Now here, I can go up from the top and down at the bottom, or I can go up at the bottom and down at the top. But my next stitch is going to come out down here. So if I go up at the top, or up at the bottom and down at the top, it's a shorter travel for me to get to where I need to go. So I'm going to do that. And that's a lot of what I'm doing for cross stitches, just trying to find the most efficient way so I'm not wasting thread, because I don't like wasting things. All right. Oops, where'd you go? Come on. My hands are so dry, it's pulling the thread. Alrighty. And again, I have a choice here to either go up at the top and down at the bottom, or up at the bottom and down at the top. There's not really any right or wrong. It's just whatever works for you and is more efficient. I try and do it where I use the least amount of thread because I have run out at times. and that's not great. I don't like being in a position where I have to stop a project because I don't have what I need. Alrighty, so that is our first section there, done. You can see compared to what's marked off. Now, some people would then continue on with the green here and the green here, like the green marking. And you know, generally I would be one of those people, but I'm just going to show you how we're going to get rid of this and how to end and start new colors. So first we need to tie off this guy. All right, so we're not doing knots, but we're going to run the thread under previous stitches. So we're going under these guys, and we don't want to go through the fabric. That just makes the fabric rumple in strange ways and can make it be weak. Okay, now I'm going to show you something. I've just gone under maybe 4 stitches. Ideally, I'd like to go down maybe 2/3 of an inch. But if you don't have that space, one of the things I like to do is, I've come out from under a stitch, now I'm going to go under it again, so it's like making a loop, and just to kind of help lock down what I'm doing. Okay, and then I can do this. Now, how do I put it back on this? Well, even though I don't use knots, I put a knot at the end just so I know what direction to go in next time. I can just clip this off, but I just do that so I know what direction I'm going to be going in next time. And I fold it in half, find the section where this came from. Come on. Put the tails through the loop, and there we go. So now I know what shade, what color, what shape, what chart symbol this is, and because of the knot there, I know what direction the thread goes in. Okay, so that's that. We need to get rid of, okay, so we're going to get rid of this guy. And I think he was back here. Maybe not. Okay. Well, that didn't go super great, but it's all right. Okay, anyway, so that's done. That tail's done. Everybody's done there. We're good. All right. Now, what are we going to do next? How about the red stars? I'll do some red stars. Okay, where do we have more pink stars, I should say. Ah, here we are. I see pink stars. You are going to stab me. Go away. All right, pink stars. So again, I'm just going to take one little thread and go like this and straighten these guys out. I mean, they're nice and organized now, but by the time we're done, it's going to be a big nasty mess. Okay, so we're folding it in half. Okay, yeah, this is what dry skin looks like. There we go. Okay, now remember we have to turn one of them around. So now they're both going in the same direction. And then we have to find which way is smoothest. Oh, definitely not this way. There we go. Okay. Okie dokie. So the pink stars are on this side of what we've already done, and they start one stitch below this guy. So what I'm going to do is put my thread underneath the backs of these stitches such that I can come out right down here. Okie dokie. And if one spot is already kind of full up with another tail going underneath it, instead of bulking up that same spot again, just move over to a different spot. So I've gone under 3. I'm going to go under that third one again, and then go underneath the 4th. And then go under this guy down here, and then pop out at the very end guy. Alright, so I want to do down here, this one, because again, my first bars are going to go like that. Alright, and what does the chart say? Start down here and go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jump 1 and then do 2. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, a 3, a 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. That has me level with the previous one. And that is correct. That's what we want, so that's good. Then skip 1 and then 2. So I'm going to skip 1 and then, oops. All right, so I don't know if you can see this. I didn't go down in the proper hole. I went in part way, and you can see that there's a thread there that really should be covered within the stitch. So you can either take the needle off your thread and pull that one up, or you can pull this thread out of the way of your most recent hole and go down. You have to be careful doing this because you don't want to put the needle actually through your thread. And then do the same from the other side, really carefully. Because if you put your needle through the thread, you're just making a bigger mess for yourself. All right, let's try that again. So you can see where I went wrong before. Now going through properly. Hey, all right, again, skipping 1 and then 2. Okay, and let's mark that down. You can see on the chart that the stitches that remain really stand out, which makes it easier for when you're doing those stitches. Okay. So I am going to just go back the way I came. I think I need to straighten out my threads. There we go. Oh, now I suppose I should tell you, my fingers on the underside are kind of pushing up. My thumb is pushing down so that I can get at that hole fairly easily, and I can kind of roll the fabric back and forth so I can get at what... Thank you, Mr. Airplane. So I can get at what I really want to get at. Sometimes my other fingers are doing things that I don't really think about, but they're kind of helpful to the process. Sorry, just making sure everybody's laying flat there. Alrighty, so that's that, and then I can see here we've got some more. So from the bottom it's a diagonal up and then 4. So up and then 4. And then skipping 2 and doing 2. And then skipping another 2 and doing another 2. And that should leave me level with the previous row, which it does. So I'm good. You always want to double check your work, particularly before you move on. Alrighty, and see, it was important to not have tape on this side because I wouldn't be able to mark up anything there. Alrighty, so I'm just going to go back down. Again, making sure that my crosses are all in the same direction. Oops, see, I don't want to be there. Go back down. Alright, skipping 2, working 2, skipping 2, there we go. I don't want to pull too tight because I don't want to rumple the fabric or anything. I also don't want to be too loose and have the stitches look sloppy. So it's like anything with attention, you just kind of get a knack to how much you need to pull. And yeah, it's once you get the knack, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so to finish this off, again, I'm just going to go underneath the backs of the stitches. Now obviously the stitches that have gone across, that's a lot more stabilizing to go under than these ones where I've skipped a couple. So I can go under that, but it's not really helping much. So there we go. That should be good. And then we're just going to clip that and put a knot in for next time. And that was pink stars. I'm going to put this in here so that I don't lose it. Here's pink stars. So fold it in half. Now, in times past, I've also just taken the needle and just made a hole and just done that instead of gone all the way around. I might have to do that with pieces like this that are really short, because then they might fall off, and then I don't know where it started or it came from. I have to compare it to all the similar threads. So we'll see. Might end up doing that. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna keep ka-chunking away on this, probably while I'm watching TV with the family tonight. It's gonna take a while, but I will keep at it. And if you guys have any questions or I wasn't clear, which is pretty likely, but if you have any questions about something, please leave a comment, and I promise I will get to it as quickly as I can. And I hope that if you're not familiar with doing cross stitches, I hope this makes you feel more comfortable about starting them. It can be kind of overwhelming at first, but if you know how to make it easier for yourself, that makes all the difference in the world. So I'll see you next time, and happy crafting, and I hope that you're having a lovely day, and take care and be safe. Bye!